to grow in these burn sites. They're so dense, so heavy. I really love these morels. So I think I'm in a good spot. Kind of early in the season still, but as I was walking, I felt compelled to record this video. I was planning on waiting until I was in a more appropriate place, but I figure it's on my mind, and I feel like I can communicate what I want to communicate pretty clearly right now. So I'm going to talk about a couple things. The first is why I am starting NA beer reviews. NA is non-alcoholic beer reviews. I'm going to talk about my personal history that brought me to this point, and my vision for the future, and why I think that the non-alcoholic beer industry is kind of a pivotal industry for our generation and our generation's health when it comes to alcoholism. So I stopped drinking 4 years ago. I just celebrated my 4-year anniversary on May 16th, 2019. And when I stopped drinking, it was pretty challenging. It took me quite a few times. And the hardest thing for me was stopping drinking delicious hoppy beers. And my mom was a bartender at Grant's Brewery in Yakima when I was a kid, and she was a huge fan of IPAs, the Indian Pale Ale, for a long time before they blew up. You know, when you had maybe Full Sail and Deschutes offering IPAs. So I grew up, looking at these beers and thinking that they were really the best that you could get, and a special thing when you could find them. So when IPAs blew up, I just was a full bore IPA fan, and sought them out and just enjoyed tasting them just about more than anything. I would go on vacations seeking out delicious beer, plan my weekends around tastings, and it was really hard to leave that culture behind. I believe that that's what's different about the millennial era and our generation, is that in the past, we did have these sort of craft alcohol industries, specifically probably wine and whiskey. But for the most part, we were limited to pilsners and a couple ales for beer options. And culturally, beer was not anything like it is now. You maybe had your brand, you're a Coors person, or like my friends and I were Bud Light drinkers in high school and into our young adulthood. But we shifted into the whole craft beer thing, and we became immersed in it. It would be pretty easy to leave behind my identity if I were just a Bud Light drinker. It's not something I was necessarily proud of, not anything that I really identified that deeply with. We had our bars that we went to, our taverns, and we had our routines that we drank through, games, holidays, parties, cards, whatever. It's difficult to leave that stuff behind, but it's not as difficult to leave behind as your entire life revolving around beer industry that you invested tons and tons of time and money into, right? Like the craft beer industry. So it's especially hard for people who have been a part of craft brewing or wine or craft spirits for years and years to leave behind the dependency on alcohol, which oftentimes leaves our lives in pretty precarious situations. So knowing this, I believe that the non-alcoholic beer industry gives people a very easy direction to pivot into, where you can maintain that immersion in the culture without having to leave behind all of your friends and your knowledge. In fact, what's really exciting about non-alcoholic beer is that it's so new that we're still figuring out how to make delicious non-alcoholic beer, and we've got a ways to go. But what's exciting is that it's growing really rapidly. When I quit drinking, we had the option for O'Doul's. There was Caliber, I think, which is by Guinness, St. Pauli, NA, but none of them are very good in my opinion, and left me feeling like, well, I might as well just not drink any non-alcoholic beer because it's not worth my money or my time or the calories. So I kind of left it behind. But 2 years ago, somebody recommended a beer called Klostaller from Germany, telling me that there was a dry hopped version with Cascade hops, and I was so excited to try this beer. I went to Trader Joe's and I got it, and I was so impressed by how delicious it tasted. I drink it pretty regularly. It has a mouthfeel with the astringency of alcohol, even though it's only 0.5%. And that being said, there is alcohol in Klostaller and many non-alcoholic beers. So if you're a person who is just completely abstinent, I wouldn't recommend, just throwing that away to try a non-alcoholic beer. It's something that you really need to think about and consider before you go full bore. Luckily, breweries like Heineken have figured out how to create a pretty darn tasty 0% alcohol beer that's just hit the US market. So there's hope for even the 0% beer drinkers. So I'm really excited about non-alcoholic beer, and I'm going to be investing time in tasting non-alcoholic beers, sharing my experience, sharing what's happening in the market, the new breweries that are coming up with tasty beers, who's excelling and who has some room for improvement. I would say that right now it seems like Europe is ahead of the curve. They've got some really cool breweries putting out non-alcoholic beers, but the US has a lot popping up too. So as I move forward, I will be tasting beers, doing reviews, putting them on YouTube, Instagram, maybe on Facebook. So do follow and like what I post, please. Leave me comments, let me know what you like about the reviews and what you think should be improved. If you find a new beer you want to share with me, please let me know. So the second thing I want to talk about is another project that I'm starting. And in my job, I'm a coach. I work for a Washington State program as a coach. That's my title. And I have a certificate in coaching from the University of Washington. And I'm at the point in my life where I'm ready to start a private practice around addiction coaching. And this is really a pretty new field. Coaching as a model hasn't really been used to address addiction. I'll be focusing primarily on alcohol because that's my experience and where I feel like I can support people the most. So you can check that out at manmanlai.org, manmanlai.org. And Manmanlai means take it easy. It literally means slowly, slowly come in Mandarin Chinese. And I think that's what we should do with ourselves. It's one step at a time, one day at a time. Manmanlai coaching is focused on finding out what fulfills you and then setting goals and action steps to reach that fulfillment. A lot of times we're stuck in these agreements in our lives that we personally didn't set for ourselves. They're oftentimes a result of trauma and of cultural conditioning, and we're stuck in them oftentimes, but we have every right and every opportunity to break those agreements and set new agreements. And that's what I'm all about. So I hope you'll check out manmanlai.org. You can book a session right there on the website. We have schedules where you can select a time that works for you. I offer online sessions via FaceTime, Skype, Zoom, and also in person in the Seattle area. Anyway, that's really all I gotta say right now. I'm super excited for this new path that I'm taking in my life. I'm super grateful for the experiences that I've had and the support that I've had, and I just can't wait to kind of get out on my own and start helping people. Oh, one more thing. So the really cool thing about Manmanlai is that for every session booked online, I'm donating my time to coaching people in Seattle's homeless population who are suffering from addiction. And this is exciting because Seattle has a really, really large homeless population, and there, to be honest, isn't a lot being done to support these people, and they're stuck, many of them, in mental health issues and addiction issues. And this coaching model, again, it hasn't really been used before, and I'm anxious to find out what change I can affect in our community. Even if it's just one person at a time, I think we can make some changes. Sitting down with people, hearing their stories, helping them identify what drives them and what they want out of their life, and setting some simple, tangible goals to guide us towards that fulfillment. So that's our partner. It's a 501c3 called Go Anywhere.